there's four equations that have absolute values. F of x equals the absolute value of x, absolute value of x minus 2, absolute value of x plus 2, and negative times the absolute value of x. So the way you graph this is, let's start with f of x equals the absolute value of x. So you take the x value of 1, and you turn it into the x value. So it'd be the absolute value of 1, which is 1. So then you put a dot right there at 1. So 1 is 1. Do the same thing for 2. 2 is 2. 3 is 3. 4 is 4. 5 is 5. Now, for the negative numbers, you get 1 absolute value. That's still 1. So you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So when you use the absolute value of an equation, it's always going to be positive. The only time it's going to be negative, like this graph right here, is if it looks like this. If there's a negative in front or outside of the absolute value of x. Otherwise, it's going to be completely positive, only positive numbers. You might be wondering, what's this pink one doing here, not on the 0? Well, this is because the equation is x plus 2. So then what we do is if we put in 0, we get the absolute value of 0, which is 0, but then we add 2, so it goes to 2. If we do negative 1, it's negative 1 plus 2, that's a positive 1, so that goes to 1. 2, negative 2 plus 2 is 0, absolute value of that is 0. 3, you'll get negative 1 here, 4, negative 2, 5, negative 3. Now obviously this continues on, but since I hand drew, I didn't have much space, I just stopped at 5. Same thing over here. 1 plus 2 is 3, 2 plus 2 is 4, 3 plus 2 is 5. Now the purple one is the opposite. It is minus 2. So when you have the 0, it is 0 minus 2, so you have negative 2, but the absolute value of negative 2 is positive 2, so it goes to 2. Negative 1 would be negative 3, that would be absolute value of 3. Negative 2, negative 2 minus 2 is negative 4, absolute value of that is 4. Negative 3 minus 2 is negative 5, absolute value of negative 5 is positive 5. Same thing over here, 3 minus 2, you get 1. 4 minus 2, you get 2, and 5 minus 2, you get 3. Now, the thing with this one down here, the one at the bottom, this equation right here, it's negative absolute value of x. So you get negative 1. Instead of being 1, it's the flip of this equation right here, absolute value of x. So then you'll get 1, but then since it becomes a negative, it's negative 1. 2, negative 2, 3, negative 3, 4, negative 4, 5, negative 5. Same thing over here. Now, what does taking the absolute value of an equation mean? Well, it will always make it positive. So the effect of taking the absolute value always makes it positive. The only time the equation won't be positive, such as this one right here, is when there is a negative on the outside of the absolute value of the equation. Now, how should you write this as a piecewise function? Well, if you look at it here, there is a 0, and there's a line going off of 0, and a line going off of 0 this way. So how you would write this is you would write it as x is greater than or equal to 0. So when x is greater than or equal to 0, it is equal to absolute value of x. So when x is greater than, right here, when x is greater than or equal to 0, you use this equation. But we still have this equation over here, so what are we going to do? We're going to do the same thing, but this time it's going to be x less than or equal to 0 is equal to this absolute value of x. So then, when we have negative 1 through negative infinity, we use this equation right here.